West Asia is on edge. The fear of an all-out war between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah is looming large in the region.
Well, this after a rocket attack in Golan Heights killed 12 teenagers and children. Israel has blamed Hezbollah for the strike, and the Security Cabinet has authorized Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to decide on the manner and timing for the retaliation.
Thousands of mourners joined a funeral procession on Sunday for 12 children who were killed in a rocket attack on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. It marks the single deadliest attack in Israel or Israeli-annexed territory since Hamas's assault sparked the Gaza war on October 7th. And it is fueling fears of significant escalation between Israel and Hezbollah militants in Lebanon. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said he visited the town of Majd al-Shams early on Sunday, describing the site of the attack as, quote, a place where innocent girls and boys were murdered during a soccer game. He vowed to retaliate against Hezbollah for the strike. Hezbollah initially announced it fired rockets at Israeli military sites in the Golan Heights, but denied involvement in the attack on Majd al-Shams.
There is no justification for terrorism, period. And every indication is that indeed the rockets were the rocket was from Hezbollah.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Tokyo said Israel had the right to defend itself. But he said Washington also did not want to see further escalation in violence.
We don't want to see it spread. That has been one of our goals from day one, from October 7th on.
Majd al-Shams is a Druze village. The Druze are an Arab minority who practice a form of Islam and make up more than half of the 40,000-strong population of the Golan Heights, territory captured from Syria by Israel in the 1967 Middle East War and annexed in a move not recognized by most countries. Here's one resident who calls himself Haytham. He says, we need to strive now to sign a deal and stop this damned war. We want to live. We don't want to die. Israeli and Hezbollah fighters in southern Lebanon have been exchanging fire for months, but appeared to be avoiding an escalation that could lead to all-out war. Saturday's strike threatened to tip the standoff into a more dangerous phase, and United Nations officials urged maximum restraint from both sides. The conflict has forced tens of thousands of people in both Lebanon and Israel to leave their homes.
Israeli jets hit targets in southern Lebanon, but there are expectations a stronger response could follow the security meeting convened by Netanyahu.
Reports suggest Hezbollah is on high alert and has cleared some key sites in both Lebanon's south and eastern Bekaa Valley in case of an Israeli attack.
Any conflict could bring in Iran, which warned Israel that a strong reaction would lead to unprecedented consequences.
While tensions rise on Israel's northern border, in the south of the country, the war in Gaza continues. The Israeli Defense Forces launched a series of air attacks on the Burej and Nusayrat refugee camps, hours after ordering Palestinians there to leave. Now, according to the United Nations Relief and Work Agency, UNRWA, 86% of the Gaza Strip is currently under such orders.
Meanwhile, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said Turkey may enter Israel to help Palestinians as it had done in the past in Libya and Nagorno-Karabakh, though he did not spell out what sort of an intervention he was suggesting. All right, to discuss this further, we're now being joined by Dr. Alan Burin, visiting assistant professor at Israel Institute, fellow at the Department of Political Science, University of California, Irvine. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure to have you, sir. Israel and Hezbollah have exchanged near daily fire since the start of the war in October last year. Do you think the latest rocket attack on the Golan Heights that raises the prospects of an escalation in the region of an all-out war, something that has been feared for a long while now?
Absolutely. There is no doubt that Israel's retaliation is going to be at a level that we have not seen up until now. Israel, as part of this equation between Hezbollah and the IDF, like you said, there's been daily exchange of fire. but they have their sort of like rules of the game. Hezbollah doesn't fire too far south in Israel. Israel does not carry out attacks in certain areas in Lebanon. And every now and then there's a bit of a game changer. We saw that also between Iran and Israel back in April. All of a sudden there's another big attack and then the rules change. The question will be what Hezbollah will do after that. Israel's going to retaliate, and there's going to be a big retaliation. It'll be up to Hezbollah. Do they then retaliate further, and that'll be a big escalation? Or does Hezbollah accept, okay, we fired that missile, Israel did that, and we go back to the quote-unquote rules of the game?
Dr. Burstein, this involvement of Turkey, which is being suggested, the statement that we may enter Israel to help Palestinians like we have done in the past in Libya and Nagorno-Karabakh. What are your thoughts on this? What are they even suggesting here?
I have to be honest, I do not take that as a serious threat. Erdogan has, throughout the last year, really changed his tune. Prior to the war, he was working very hard to mend the relationship with Israel. He met with Prime Minister Netanyahu months before the war, and they're working to reestablish the relationship. Then, when the war broke out, he shifted tune. Even the examples that he gives, the involvements in Nagorno-Karabakh and in Libya, Turkey did not invade those countries. Turkey sent a peacekeeping force to one and was invited by the government in the other to help keep the peace. Turkey has a lot of arms deals with Israel. Whenever they're involved militarily somewhere, they buy arms from Israel. That is, I read, a very empty threat. It's a rhetoric threat. It's one that was done within his own party position, a party meeting. I think that he's trying very hard to show that he is on the Palestinian side. I think that he hopes to strengthen his party that way. I think it's been working for him to some extent. Obviously, every sort of that threat has to be taken seriously, but I do not see any military intervention from Turkey anywhere in the near future.
Right, so that being said, with the perceived escalations, the latest attack as well, do you think this risks the involvement of other regional proxies, the axis of resistance here? And is Israel equipped to deal with that?
So we are seeing waves of the axis of resistance, as you called it, which is accurate. We see that in waves in the war. At the beginning of the war, between October and February, we really saw Iranian-backed militias throughout Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Yemen, Lebanon get involved attacking American targets. Then there was much more of a lull, and for a couple of months they did not get that involved after U.S. troops had been killed in Tower 22 base in Jordan. Now all of a sudden the Houthis managed to detonate a suicide drone in Tel Aviv. Israel attacked Yemen for the first time. We also saw between Israel and Iran in April. So we're seeing another wave of the involvement of the proxies in the region. Obviously it's what everyone fears. Like I said, though, it really depends on how Hezbollah now reacts, because right now no one doubts that Israel's going to have a major reaction. It'll be up to Hezbollah. Do they just take that and absorb that and say that's okay? Somewhat the way Israel and Iran back in April, they attacked them, okay, and they both went back to being okay, so to speak, with each other, with the tensions. Or do they want to escalate? I do not think Hezbollah wants to escalate right now. I think it'll be dangerous for them politically in Lebanon. But it remains to be seen what Israel's retaliation is, and can Hezbollah afford to also not retaliate, so to speak.
Israel-Hezbollah tensions have been mounting since a while. This is again another phase of those mounting tensions. Hezbollah keeps sharing those drone videos captured of strategic locations within Israel. But of course, as we progress further into it, we'll get to know how far this gets escalated. Thank you so much for joining in. That was Dr. Alan Burin, visiting assistant professor at Israel Institute, fellow Department of Political Science, University of California, Irvine. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure speaking with you, sir.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.